busted it is not going to be by a guy like that.
I'll be back.
Here's Johnny.
It's the Al Travis Show. We're looking at having a guest on. We just enjoy having her on. She's Representative Kelly Fenton. Representative, how well do you know Senator Karen Housley? Because I think she's the one who sicked me on you. I was looking for a guest. If you got to get Kelly Fenton on, and I have, and I love having you on. How well do you know Senator Housley?
I know her very well. So we're in a gridiron group together. So
you're on that football pick thing?
I am on the football. Yes.
Okay, we discussed that.
But she and I, she always cared. We carried each other's bills quite a bit when we were at the Capitol. We worked together on things for the East Metro. So always loved working with her from a professional level. And then we have a great personal friendship as well.
All right, fair enough. So if you get mad for being on the program too much, you blame her. She started it. I don't. Do you know John Hoffman, Senator Hoffman?
I do. I worked with him as well while I was at the House. He was in the Senate. Always, he was one of the Democrats that Republicans could go talk to. He talked to everybody. Yeah. He worked with everybody. Always loved that about him. He's the type of person you'd love to go out and have a beer with and laugh a lot with.
And a cigar. That's for he and I. And I do. And I'm with you 100%. So he came into the show a few weeks back after being shot. He's been on a regular every Monday for years. We're going to get him back, people. Hang in there. So when I see him talking at the DNC convention, the summer conventions here in Minneapolis, it doesn't shock me. I mean, whether he likes it or not, he is the face of a new movement that is, happening in the state of Minnesota, I hope. And basically he comes on and does what John does. He calls on Democrats to restore public trust in politics, recognize the harm of conspiracy theories, dehumanization, rhetoric, and political radicalization. This is all according to Garrett Levin. He believes all Americans, Minnesotans want to talk to each other again. He's being that consolidator. We got to stop the rhetoric. And then Klobuchar speaks fine. It sounds like Amy. And then Governor Walz comes on. And did you hear Governor Walz's speech? And it's like he didn't hear John Hoffman at all.
It's awful. First of all, about John Hoffman's speech, because I did see that as well. That's what a true statesman looks like. That's the definition of a statesman. Yep. And I thought he was spot on because we're all Americans. We're all Minnesotans. Let's get back to where we could agree to disagree and have great conversations and then go have a cocktail and laugh about it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then to see Walz, it was awful. It was petty. It was, he's name calling. It's just, and here's the guy that was talking about trying to spread joy during a national vice presidential campaign, just playing schoolyard. It's like being around a junkyard dog or something.
I like the schoolyard reference because he's a man-child with fat ankles. You'd expect that out of a sixth grader running for the presidency of the sixth grade class, right? I mean, I'll get you free lunch. Johnny's a man-child and has ankles. It just was, I think petty was a great word for that. But let me ask you this, and I don't know how well you know the governor. Is the governor running, when he was running for vice president, was that the real him? Is the real him the guy we had before when he wouldn't swear all the time? Is the new governor the guy who swears 3 times in this "can we all get together" meeting? Which Walz is it really?
The real guy is the one that's meaner than a junkyard dog, and that was something that was always whispered about around the Capitol and whatnot. People were afraid of retaliation, so he definitely is. He's more of a bully than the bully is how I would put that. His rhetoric, definitely, he needs to tone down his rhetoric. You come in, know what's going on and know what's happening around you. You come in after a speech like Senator John Hoffman gives, and you just get down in the dirt and dirty. It was absolutely awful. But, was that speech for the base in that in the room. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who it was. I would say I'm not sure if that's a speech from a guy who's going to run for governor again.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. So put on your hat on. If this guy is going to, and again, the base in the room, if you knew there weren't TV cameras there, go talk to him all you want. I mean, forget John. I'm going to blow him off. I'm going to do things my way. You can do that. That base was eating it up. But there are cameras there. This is across the internet now. Everybody's seeing this, and they know that. They're not idiots. So is that him bowing out? What do you expect to hear next week then? Is this the speech of a guy who says, told you, I'm ready to roll?
Look, I believe that if he, I don't know look, he should have announced by now if he really were going to run. I mean,
Yeah.
if I were a betting gal, and I'm not, I would probably say he's not going to run, or for sure he absolutely really doesn't want to run again. Mm-hmm. But I think that the donor class and the establishment of the Democrat Party are concerned, because should he not run again, then you have a few other seats, possibly Simon getting in the race, and likely Keith Ellison. So now you've got your entire constitutional ticket shakeup, and then who ends up going in there? I think what's happening right now is maybe the donors or the establishment is begging him to stay in. I would say I think he's not. That was a speech, what I saw yesterday, of someone who's not going to run again.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting, because the last guest said they thought that meant he was in. What if they're playing a bit of a game with us? And I run this down. This is room right here. So Governor Walz talks to Amy Klobuchar and says, Amy, you run for governor. You're going to win the thing. You're on, Amy. You're in. And that vacant seat, the first thing you do is, once you get to governor, is you place me in that seat. Wow. Both of them who had Senate/gubernatorial experience, they can run for president, whatever they want. Will Minnesotans take that that fancy Texas two-step? Will they accept that, if that's how it goes?
I mean, their party would. I mean, look, Amy Klobuchar outperforms everybody on the ballot when she's on the ballot. You know, she is a retail politician. Mm-hmm. I would say most of the bills she carries isn't too deep, but she plays the retail politician very well. And I have to say, one thing I'm going to say, one of the first people after I got elected to the House that I received a congratulatory Christmas card from was Amy Klobuchar, congratulating me on running and winning, and being a public servant in the House of Representatives for Minnesota. I mean, that little stuff that goes a long ways in Minnesota as far as Minnesota politics go. So anything's possible. The Democrats do this, I feel like, better than the Republicans. I feel like the powers that be get everybody in the room, the most formidable group of people in the room, and they decide who's it going to be. We can't have this public battle for very long. Which one of you is going to be? Who's going to run? This is how it's going to go. And then they run with their plan, and they orchestrate their plans really, really well. If Republicans could do some of that, we might be able to win these statewide races. So
let me ask you about that, Kelly, if I could, Representative Fenton. Why is the GOP in such disarray? We've been the underdogs for 30 years. We haven't won a statewide race for 30 years. You would think at some point we would put together the machinery to make things work. But what you're talking about, the DFL, that doesn't happen in the Republican Party.
Well, but part of the DFL is collectivism, right? Or globalism, right? They all follow. You know, I've always said it's a blessing and a curse when you're a Republican, because you have the great ideas, but we all have an individual route to get to accomplish that idea or that goal. And that's a great thing, because I've always said no one person will have the exact right answer, right? So you have to be able to listen, and so we fight it out. We put so much into the grassroots, which is a great thing, because those are the people who get us where we go when we run elections. They're the volunteers on the campaign. So I think that's one of the differences from Republican to Democrat. The Democrat are more collectivism, globalism, so they all follow the leader. Okay. And then we're more about individual responsibility and letting the people, more of the greater portion of the people, decide. So I don't know that Republican Party is in disarray. I just think it's a differences of values between the two groups.
That's fair enough. I got to go to break. We'll be back after this. I've got a Representative Kelly Fenton on the Al Travis Show.
Dust from livestock buildings can be harmful to your animals and to you. Coughing animals can lead to costly vet visits and other serious health problems. Now there's an environmentally safe solution for your dust problems. It's called Dust Lock. Dust Lock can control the dust all summer long with just one application. Protect your animals and your health with Dust Lock. Learn more at dustlock.com.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
If you could save a life, would it be worth 60 minutes of your time? SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, wants you to know that you can save a life. The One Step Ahead online suicide prevention training teaches you the 4 easy steps to talking to a friend, coworker, or family member about suicide and how you can give them the help they need. Best of all, the training is free. To sign up and take the training, go to save.org/one-step-ahead. That's save.org/one-step-ahead.
Amongst friends, the Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
Lucky to have Representative Kelly Fenton on the program with us today. Representative, I've been as vocal and outspoken about the security of the Capitol as I think anybody, because it just seems to fall off the radar again. And I understand they say, well, it's security. We can't tell you what all happened. We have yet to hear weeks later how Naked Guy, besides getting in with a foot wedge, how that happened. How there wasn't somebody looking at every door every night when it was done. We have gotten absolutely nothing out of these people. And that bothers me. The last thing we heard this week was that they're really looking into metal detectors because, we're going to have to make sure people aren't carrying guns in the Capitol. which has nothing to do with either of the two problems, the foot wedge or the Hoffman and the Hortman shooting, because that wasn't even at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
So the brilliance of our fine legislature is they've hired a firm that's run by a former St. Paul police chief for $220,000 to have them tell us what's wrong.
So
it seems like a waste. What are you talking about? We need $220,000. We have the State Patrol. We have the Sergeant of Arms. We've been doing this for 35 years. We need someone else to come in and take a look.
They have some of the most experienced people at their fingertips right there guarding the doors of the entrance to the House and the Senate floor and that Capitol that could probably tell them these are the things that I would do. And they're on the payroll already, right?
Thank you.
I mean, but look, we're spending $500 million for a new state office building. So I guess what's another $220,000, right? I mean, it's absolutely crazy because they have those resources of the intelligence of being there in that Capitol day in and day out, our state patrol that are there all the time. So it, and I don't know.
And forgive me, we just put $250-300 million into the Capitol 10 years ago, polished it up. Wouldn't that company that we hired, the architecture firm, have made suggestions on security be a part of it? The new House building, you put in $750 million in it, and it doesn't include a security expert or, the company to come in with a security plan. And don't they all have to kind of run together? We got to throw more money at this problem?
So the architects are going to be dictated by what the RFP was, what the requirements were, what the state wanted, what the state dictated to them. And when you go into the Senate office building, I would say for sure the Senate office building had a few more security measures, I felt, that we did at the House where we were. I mean, anybody could come in anytime. I had people waiting outside my office all the time that didn't have appointments to see me or whatnot. So anybody could have access to anyone at any time in the former state office building where I was. Mm-hmm. But you would think that, and by the way, the Capitol was roughly $310 million. But you would think at that time they'd look into that. Look, I always felt safest for sure when I was on the House floor because so many of our members are former public safety members as well, and they conceal carry as long as you give a letter of notification to Capitol Security that your concealed carry will be carrying while on premise. That's allowed. You got to look at the laws surrounding what you can and can't do at the Capitol. But I always felt safe because so many of the public safety men and others were concealed carry around me while I was in the House floor. It was the safest place I felt during that period.
So what's interesting to me about that is that makes you feel the safest. Some guy got in with a foot wedge. We're not dealing with that, but they might want to put metal detectors in so people can't carry into the Capitol. Do you see my point? It seems so backwards.
And I'd say not all foot wedges are metal either. So
I'm holding up a rubber one right here, and he used a block of wood. Yeah.
And I've seen some wooden ones as well. But, but look, it's the knee-jerk reactions that we really need to step back from the knee-jerk reactions and put some just be methodic about the thought process and what's really neat, because whenever you do that, you end up spending more money because you don't do it right the first time anyways.
And I wonder if anybody ever asked, because I bet you it would happen. I don't know who this guy is. He can make his $220,000 if he can. Good for him. But I bet you there are enough security professionals, ex-Army guys, ex-Marines, ex-cops, ex-people who run this for a living, that would say, you know what? I'm willing to take a day with the head of the chief of the State Patrol. Let's wander through here, and I'll give you my best ideas. I'll give them to you. Give me one day. Let me see what I can do to help. We're going to spend $250,000, have a guy say, you know what you got to do? Get that little thingy from security lock Mike Mighty's got up at the cabin that just knows that the doors are closed, and if they're not, then a big siren goes off. It isn't complicated.
Yeah, like I said, they have the experts at their fingertips that are already on the payroll right there at the Capitol. And look, and Todd Axtell was the chief of police for St. Paul, right? He came from the same group of men and women. And so I feel like that's something that you could have pulled your own capital security together and said, let's go through this. And what do we need? What are we doing right? What could we do better? What would it cost to, put some security measures that we don't have that maybe we need here, and then look into that. But, after you go through this process, then you will have the cost of doing what is needed to secure these buildings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is $220,000 to have this guy tell you, well, this is what I think you should do. Now go spend the money. This is cray-cray. I got to fly. Representative Fenton, I'd love having you on the show. Thank you so very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We'll get you back on. It's the Al Travis Show.